Hello everyone, how are you all? Let us study clauses. A clauses is a very important part of our English grammar. It is studied in standard 6 to standard 12 and it is very important and students find it little difficult also. Today I am trying to explain you it in a very easy way. Just be there with me. So what are clauses? Clauses makes a complete sense. Why? Because it is a sentence in which you will get one independent clause and another dependent clause. A clause is a sentence which contains subject and a predicate. Clauses will have subject plus verb format. That's why it makes a complete sense. Clauses two types: independent clause, dependent clause. Independent clause is that expresses complete thought, whereas dependent clause does not express complete thought. Independent clause can stand alone, whereas dependent clause cannot stand alone. Dependent clause needs the support of independent clause to understand its meaning. That's why it cannot stand alone in the sentence. Independent clause contains subject plus verb and also dependent clause contains subject plus verb. As I told you, it is only a clause if it contains subject plus verb. Independent clause is also known as main clause and dependent clause is also known as subordinate clause. Now why it is known as subordinate clause? Because here we are using the subordinating conjunctions and relative pronouns to connect the independent clause and dependent clause. See the example over here. Her friends came to meet her when she was sick. Her friends came to meet her when she was sick. Can you find, students, what is a connector over here? Yes, here a connector is when. So when we will read after this, when she was sick. This is our dependent clause. Dependent clause connect before the dependent clause you will get subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun which connects the dependent clause to independent clause. Let us see another example. Although it was raining, we went for picnic. So what is a connector over here? Although. Although it was raining. So it was raining is your dependent clause. If your dependent clause comes in front, then it is separated by a comma from the main clause. Read the next sentences. Radha and Raghav were best friends when they were young. So what is the time connector over here? When. And what is dependent clause? They were young. So here it is written after the main clause, so no comma is needed. You have to remember this. Dependent clause is only understood when we take the help of independent clause. Now let us understand relative clause. A relative clause gives more information about the nouns in the main clause. The relative clause is connected to the main clause by a relative pronoun. So a relative pronoun is used as a connector in the relative clause. Relative clause are of two types: defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause. Now what does the defining relative clause do? Defining relative clause add necessary information, whereas non-defining relative clause add extra information. Defining relative clause helps to identify who or what we are talking about. That means who or what we are talking about means subject of the sentence. Do not identify who or what we are talking about as it is giving extra information, so it does not help us to identify who or what we are talking about. Defining relative clause, they complete the sense of the sentence. As they are giving the necessary information, so with them only the sentence will be completed. Non-defining relative clause makes the sentence sentence makes the sense without them also. Defining relative clause comes immediately after the noun, whereas non-defining relative clause always are separated by comma. Now let us understand it in detail. Defining relative clause add necessary information to sentence and helps to identify who or what we are talking about. See the example here. The man who helped me was very kind. So I have written in a black pen that who helped me. This is your defining relative clause. Just see students, if I will not write this defining relative clause, can you understand the subject? Only read the blue one. The man was very kind. Do you understand I am talking about which man? No. Do you understand I am talking about the man? No, you are not able to understand. It is only clear when we read this defining relative clause. Who helped me? So now it is clear. It gave a necessary information that I am talking about the person who helped me. So it is your defining relative clause. It cannot be removed from here, as it is giving necessary information, helping us to identify who or what we are talking about. And with the help of defining relative clause, the sentence is making complete sense. One more thing, students, notice this relative clause, defining relative clause, just comes after the noun. Our noun is man and it is just coming after the man. See the next example. The book that Sam is reading is really exciting. So again the same thing, same you apply. If you remove this defining relative clause, is the subject clear to you? No. The book is really exciting. Do you know about which book I am talking? No, you don't know. So when it is clear, when I will put here defining relative clause. The book that Sam is reading. I have a friend who is learning Chinese. So I have a friend, Chinese, it does not makes the sense. So if I will write down, I have a friend who is learning Chinese. So now it makes a complete sense. I hope you understood that defining relative clause add necessary information, helps to identify who or what we are talking about. They complete the sense of the sentence, comes immediately after the noun. The jacket that Samira wants is expensive. Now that is your relative pronoun, and that jacket. Okay, jacket means which jacket we are talking about? We are talking about that jacket that Samira wants is expensive. It is making a sense and completing the sentence. We can leave out the relative pronoun when it is the object of relative clause. Now see here students, if object of relative clause means I like. I is our subject, like is our verb, and here when we are going to use the relative pronoun, it will be our object. So I like who? The actor. So here we can leave the relative pronoun. As the rule says, we can leave out the relative pronoun when it is the object of the relative clause. Hello students, now let us understand non-defining relative clause. Non-defining relative clause do not identify who or what we are talking about. They just add extra information in the sentence and the sentence makes sense without them. See the example. My cousin Tanmay always writes really long letters. So it is understood. We know the subject. We know in the sentence whom we are talking about. So this who lives in Berlin is just additional information. That's why we can call it as non-defining relative clause. Rahul's favorite cafe where lots of students go is near the university. So now see here, Rahul's favorite cafe is near the university. The meaning is clear if we write it like this also. But if it is written where lots of students go, that is your non-defining relative clause, because it is just adding the additional information. Non-defining relative clause are always separated from the rest of the sentences by comma. Say here, New York, comma, which I visited last year, comma, is an exciting city. I spent the afternoon with Sheila, comma, who is in my class. So here this non-defining relative clause is separated by comma. Relative pronoun that cannot be used in non-defining relative clause. Note over here, we can use both defining and non-defining relative clause to combine two sentences. Sam came on holiday with us. His sister is a model. So how we can write it? Sam, whose sister is a model, came on holiday with us. In this way, we can combine the two sentences by using defining and non-defining relative clause. Defining clause is necessary in the sentence as it gives important information. It helps to make the sentence complete, whereas non-defining relative clause gives additional information which is not that much necessary. The sentence itself makes the sense without it also. Hope you understood. Thank you.